Kind of as a side note to this, just in my reading of it, in my experience of it, I find this episode of destroying a printing press to be kind of at the heart of how difficult it is to live with rights. So this is sort of a supplemental thing to this. This is not out of the Joseph Smith papers or anything with the church, but just an opinion piece from myself. Um, Considering that 1833 is not as far away from 1776 as it is today. So you're living in a new country. And in fact, when Joseph Smith was born, this country was 30, 40 years old. I mean, it was very young. And so this idea, and especially the expansion of the Americans, as it were, west, in this case, sort of the far western part of the United States was in Missouri at the time. As they were expanding and as they were kind of getting farther and farther away from civilizations at the time, rights became a very interesting interpretation. So, and to this point, these kinds of rights are very unique and fairly new. So you have the freedom of the press, the freedom of speech, and the freedom of religion, all encapsulated in the First Amendment of the United States Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Something I just wanted to point out about this is I don't think this sort of fight is over. I know there's a lot of, in 2025 as it is now, there's a lot of conflict about what makes a press anymore, because we're not actually pressing down ink onto a piece of paper. YouTube could be a press. Is it a press? Is Facebook a press? Is X a press? Is Spotify a press? It's kind of tough. Do we have the freedom to print wherever we want? Or does somebody else have the freedom to destroy that press or to stop that press from doing something that might cause an uproar or cause some problems? These have been very legitimate questions for a very long time. In this case, you're talking about Latter-day Saints. And in my view, the publication of the Book of Commandments and the publication of the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the periodicals that the church were putting out there were really, really, in my opinion, pushing the boundaries of a freedom of religion, of a freedom of speech, and of a freedom of a press. Let's just take you back to this. It is highly understandable to me that people would find it far-fetched that a 14-year-old boy would claim that when he went and prayed in the woods in upstate New York, that God the Father and Jesus Christ the Son appeared to him in person. That pushes the limits of religious freedom. It was not well received. There was a lot of religions at the time that are Christian that did not receive it very well at all. There was a lot of problems for him and his family from it. On top of that, he uses a press to print a book of scripture that is termed equal to the Bible, referenced with the Bible, and that has the sanction of God with it. That is pushing the limits of what a press can do. I would also say, just if it goes without saying, that it also pushes the limits of freedom of speech. Are you allowed to say that God spoke to you in the woods? Are you allowed to print another book of scripture? Are you allowed to formulate a church around it? Excuse me. Are you allowed to formulate a church around it? Are you allowed to publish even more stuff like these little books on top of, and these are all replicas, but on top of like the Book of Mormon? I mean, suddenly you have a faith that's printing revelations from God. And so you can insert any group into this that you want. I am very certain that the Muslim community, I know the Catholic community, I know the Jewish community, and now there's other social justice platforms, there's other races, there's other sexual orientations, there's other methods of identifying people. That has pushed the limits of speech and press and religion in some cases. I know some people don't like to associate their beliefs as a religion, but I would hope that even if it's not termed a religion, it is still protected under the Constitution in some way. But it's a tough one, because what if my speech comes into conflict with your press? The Latter-day Saints later on had a press that they destroyed that was in Nauvoo, Illinois. The Nauvoo Expositor, very famous moment when Joseph Smith authorized a group of people to go in and destroy a press later on. So what happened? Because of the Book of Commandments, 1833 in Independence, Missouri, was in a way repeated later on. Now, there's been a lot of people who've said that what they did in Nauvoo was legal. I think there's been a lot of people who have argued that what they did in Independence, Missouri was legal. It's kind of a tough one. But I just want to point out that one of the things that I am seeing from the reading of the Joseph Smith papers, from the reading of our own church history, from the commandments that we've had, obviously there was a lot of upset and hurt feelings. People were even driven out of their homes because of this whole ordeal. But unfortunately, maybe fortunately, these are still the fights that we're having today. Who has the right to speak? Who has the right to print? Who has the right to have religions? Who has the right to have revelations? These are kind of tough things when you're talking about rights. So I just wanted to put that as an amendment to this, that even though back then these rights were still relatively new, and I think generations were still kind of getting used to them, I would say very similarly to how, just because you have civil rights amendments to the Constitution doesn't suddenly mean everybody gets along. It's going to take generations in some cases to see what that looks like and how these peoples can cooperate or get along as American citizens. So I just wanted to put an amendment onto that I thought was interesting, is that a lot of these issues that they were having way back in the 1830s, this is pre-Civil War, this is pre-World War I, II, this is pre a lot of the financial crises that had happened and a couple of famous presidents, that they were having these same kinds of debates and issues. So just kind of an opinion piece at the end. Let me know what you think if you have any ideas. I don't want to speak good or evil about it. I think there's probably very legitimate reasons why people feel compelled to stop speech, stop books, burn books. They always have their good reasons and they always have their bad ones. So I just thought it was interesting. This concept has been with us in the American experience, especially since the beginning. So enjoy. We'll see you soon.